We are going live from the USA Archaeology Museum for the first time. Tonight is a presentation co-hosted by the Alabama Archaeological Society Southwest Chapter. This month of October is Alabama Archaeology Month, so this is a great way to celebrate. Tonight's talk features Dr. Phil Carr, and it's called the I-10 Mobile River Bridge Archaeological Project, Realizing the Value of Archaeology Through Collaborations. Dr. Carr is an archaeologist specializing in the deep past of Southeastern United States. Dr. Carr received his BA degree from the University of Louisville in 1988 and an MA in 1991 and his PhD in 1995 from the University of Tennessee in Anthropology. He enjoys teaching, especially introduction to archaeology and biological anthropology, and as well as an introduction to Native American studies, as well as working with students in the field and in the lab. His research interests include technological organization, stone tools, and archaeological theory. He serves as the director of the USA Center for Archaeological Studies and as the Chief Calvin McGee Professor of Native American Studies here at the University of South Alabama. He's also the former director of the museum. And so, Dr. Carr?
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate that, and it's a real honor to be the first speaker in the series, and welcome everybody after a long hiatus. It's really, really great to be here, and there's a big archaeological project going on, and as I was mentioning earlier, this I-10 Mobile River Bridge Archaeological Project allows us to look into Mobile's past in a way that is exciting for us, and maybe in a way that's a little bit different because of the size of the project. It's the biggest project the University of South Alabama Center for Archaeological Studies has engaged with, and it's been engaged with for a long time. And I want to thank my the prior director of the Center for Archaeological Studies, Greg Wazakoff, to start with, and glad that he's here to share his thoughts as a collaborator. So, thought I'd get us all on the same page. Archaeology, we don't dig for dinosaurs, as you know. We don't just work in Egypt, and we don't dig for treasure, although who doesn't love Indiana Jones? And my students tell me there's another movie coming out, another Indiana Jones. I find it hard to believe, but they're going to milk it one more time, I understand, so we will see. So what archaeology is: study of people in the past through material remains, and the emphasis here is on the people. Even though we're commonly associated with artifacts and treasure and those sorts of things, it's really what those material remains, what those artifacts can tell us about people. And when I took Intro to Archaeology and Biological Anthropology in 1985, just dating myself a little bit, three goals of archaeology. We were reconstructing culture history, reconstructing cultural lifeways, and we wanted to explain cultural process. So culture history, you're sort of answering three questions: who was where when. You might think of it as a timeline with a geographic focus. Cultural lifeways, when we excavate archaeologically and we find features, we find post holes, we have above ground features like mounds, we can reconstruct what that life in that village might have looked like. And explaining cultural process has arguably been what our go-to answer as to the value of archaeology. If we can explain how things have changed in the past, the processes of why culture changes, we might be able to look to our own future. So that gives value to archaeology. Bob Kelly has written a book called The Fifth Beginning: What 6 Million Years of Human History Can Tell Us About Our Future. So he's one of the few archaeologists who've actually tried to do what we say the value of archaeology is. So, hopefully I look sufficiently skeptical here. This is 1991, 14 days of primitive tent camping in the Stillwater Mountains of Nevada, and I don't think I wanted to do whatever I was being asked to do that day, but there you go, it was captured. Paul Minnis wrote an article in the Society for American Archaeology newsletter answering the skeptic's question, and the skeptic's question is, why should we spend tax dollars on archaeology? Shouldn't we be spending those tax dollars in more useful ways, let's say? And Paul Minnis invited about a half dozen other archaeologists to answer the skeptic's question. So he provided his own answer, and for him it was human ecology. So kind of that whole thing about the future, his point was if you can look back at how people in the past managed their environment, interacted with their environment, then we can gain insights into how to do that today, that they faced climate change in the past, our ancestors did. They dealt with water problems, they dealt with all sorts of things, so human ecology. Others pointed to racism and how archaeology and anthropology can be anti-racist. Tourism, archaeological sites, Moundville is a major tourist attraction in Alabama. The development of a long-term perspective versus the tweet. The persistence of the many threads of cultural diversity found in the skein of human culture. And one of my favorites, wonder, inspiration, and comfort. Kind of like, stuff was bad in the past. They did okay. We're still here. We can make it. I like that. And then finally, the federal government, the National Historic Preservation Act, quote, the historical and cultural foundations of the nation should be preserved as a living part of our community life and development in order to give orientation to the American people. So archaeology and other National Register properties are of value because they're an important part of our culture. They give us orientation. They help tell us who we are as American people. Lady Bird Johnson, I don't think, realized in 1964 or 5 when she began to put a committee together to look at mainly things related to urban renewal and what they were doing to downtown areas. She wrote the foreword to, or preface to, With Heritage So Rich, which was published in 1966. And arguably that volume, which is quite eclectic, photos, poems, histories, all sorts of things in it, it's what led to the passage of the National Historic Preservation Act in 1966. So, in this quote that I have, I don't know that it fits here, but it struck me because I came across my email recently, so I thought I'd share it. The U.S. CRM industry, defined as public agencies and private sector companies that provide CRM services, cultural resource management, archaeology, historic architecture, historic preservation planning, etc., will grow annually from $1.4 to $1.85 billion between fiscal years 2022 and 2031. So this is a projection. It's based on data, but it is a projection, and we all know projections can be fraught with difficulties. But I don't think Lady Bird Johnson would have ever imagined a cultural resource management industry that would grow to almost $2 billion, 50, 60 years later. So it's interesting to think about. So what about cultural resource management? 1980, which to me, in some ways, so it's 14 years after the passage of the National Historic Preservation Act, but we were really just still getting our act together with how to apply the National Historic Preservation Act in the 80s. It was defined as the application of management skills to achieve goals set through the political process to preserve important aspects of our cultural heritage for the benefit of the American people. And my emphasis here it's for the benefit of the American people, not for the benefit of archaeologists, right? We sort of treat it as the benefit of archaeologists. So cultural resource management, we're going to apply this sort of thinking to this new bridge that the Alabama Department of Transportation, working with the Federal Highways Administration, is going to build over Mobile Bay, and our crew came up with our own emblem for our I-10 Mobile River Bridge Archaeological project, shown here at the bottom. So still, why CRM? Why cultural resource management? The physical attributes of cultural resources are, with few exceptions, non-renewable. Once the historic fabric of the monument is gone, nothing can bring back its authenticity. Once the objects in an archaeological site are disturbed, nothing can recover the information that might have been gained through the analysis of their spatial relationships. The primary concern of cultural resource management, therefore, is to minimize the loss or degradation of culturally significant material. Closely related issues include compatibility between cultural resources and new development. So our I-10 Mobile River Bridge Archaeological project, we want to have, we want to alleviate traffic that we've all probably sat through on the current facilities to get us across Mobile Bay, but we also want to preserve the past and learn from the past. So in thinking about this project in 2018, 2019, and thinking about cultural resource management and the value of archaeology, our proposal, these other values that we've already talked about, we suggested specifically in our proposal that we do think archaeologists should benefit, so to speak, from CRM, or that if we don't apply theory building, if we're not contributing to the advancement of archaeology, then maybe our work is too simple, too low level, too descriptive. And so we need to engage in theory building. As we previously said, this is for the American people. So public outreach needs to be a goal of our project. And part of that might be to produce a People of Mobile Bay edited volume at the end. We're going to probably produce technical reports that'll stack somewhere up in here that Bill Turner will have to read. Maybe Laura Wood reads, and maybe 3 or 4 other people on the planet read, and that'll be it. But a nice edited volume from the University of Alabama Press, about 180 pages with some photo pictures and stuff, that might be consumable by a wider audience. And hopefully we'll see other values as well. And I did put this image in particular because I keep hearing people tell me, so when you guys going to get the archaeology done so they can build the bridge? I am not slowing up the bridge. It's still going out on RFQ, RFP. I'm not slowing up any bridge. I'll be done well before they start thinking about building the bridge. Just saying. All right. Mr. Bill Turner, who's in our audience and also in the far right of this top picture, I do impugn him in our pre-November 2021 I-10 Mobile River Bridge Archaeological project. Pre-November because it was November that we began our field work anew for this project. And here's our timeline. 1990, Bill Turner joins the Alabama Department of Transportation. 1991 to 2005, most of our field crew were born at that point in time. The first view shed, I-10 view shed, so the first work in anticipation of this new bridge began in 2006. In 2011, we actually began looking for archaeological sites in the right-of-way through a phase 1 survey. 2013, those continued for phase 1 surveys. We also began to do some trenches on archaeological sites that were identified in those surveys. From 2015 to 2018, more phase 1s, more phase 2s, additional trenches, and Dr. Greg Walzikoff actually did a mitigation at 1MB 510 for a portion of that site. But the big August 2019, Governor Kay Ivey declares I-10 Mobile River Bridge and Bayway project dead. And this was in response to other political machinations. So I don't want to blame this on the governor. There was a lot going on politically in this regard. In June 2021, Bill Turner calls me. It's back. In July 2021, Bill Turner says, shut it down. And then in August 2021, Bill Turner says, it's back. And he was right. It really was back in August of 2021. And again, we began field work in November of 2021. And Sarah and Logan and others on the crew have been diligently working many, many weeks in the field. So, I haven't really talked about the scope of the project, but there's what we would call 15 phase 3s, 13 archaeological sites in Mobile County that we're going to do intensive archaeological investigation at, and 2 sites in Baldwin County. But just, give you a sense of a bit of the scope. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means lots of field work. Drone flights, which, hey, this is the first archaeological site I've worked on where we've had drones, so that's really cool. Doing a lot of coring, deep coring, not just my little hand cores, but 16-foot cores. We've got, in addition to the field work, there's lab processing, artifact inventory, lots of spatial data is being managed. Archival research is going on at the same time that we're in the field. There's an oral history part of the project led by Dr. Carr Jackson. Public outreach is being led by Rachel Hines. Curated collections are being looked at, so collections that already exist for Mobile are being looked at for comparison. And staffing and paperwork. I started half shovelable travel as a CRM archaeologist in the summer of 85. And in my experience, ever since this 2021, there's never been a shortage of archaeologists in this country. There's been a shortage of work in this country at times, and there's been a shortage of archaeologists maybe out west at times, and then everybody half shovel will travel. You go out west for a while, or you go up in the Northeast for a while, or you go wherever the work is for a while. But in 2021, I think to the surprise of myself and others, we've got these big projects and we can't find skilled field crew to fill those positions. So it's a really interesting time. So staffing is something I wanted to put on here. And thank goodness for the quality staff that we have. And you don't want to hear about paperwork, but man, there's mountains of paperwork. Collaborations. How do we get all this done? We get it all done through collaborations. Sarah Price with Wiregrass Archaeological Consulting has been the leader, has been the rock upon which our field work is being conducted. Her insights into being able to read the archaeological record, read soils, has been amazing. And that's complemented by Justin Sickler, also with Wiregrass Archaeological Consulting, who takes care of a lot of the logistics. So silk fencing. Silk fencing is, it sounds like, oh yeah, we'll just get silk fencing. That's not always easy to get your silk fencing set up and get it set up right. You can't start your heavy equipment until you get the silk fencing done. So then you have to excavate everything by hand until you get your heavy equipment out there, and yada, yada, yada. Justin's been great working with that. And I do consider sort of your mimicking here to be the best flattery that I could ever have. So on Fridays, it is Hawaiian shirt and shorts day, and I've yet to get my Hawaiian shorts, but I need to get Hawaiian shorts. I've never had Hawaiian shorts, but you can see Jenny here is fully garbed, and Sarah has her Hawaiian shorts on as well. I don't know if Dusty's, if those are truly Hawaiian shorts or not, but they do match his outfit quite nicely, I would say. Those yellows go together. So we have Thomas and Dusty and Kelsey and Kirk and Hamilton and Logan and Jenny and Colin and Sarah there. Not the entire crew, but that's the folks that were working under that tent that particular day. So these folks are collaborators. Many or almost all of them are going to be presenting at the Southeastern Archaeology Conference on some aspect of research about this project. Another big part of our collaborations to realize the value of archaeology is with African American Studies program, and Dr. Carr Jackson is leading our oral history work in the Down the Bay neighborhood. We've learned a lot about the Down the Bay neighborhood, which was largely sort of destroyed by urban renewal and the original construction of I-10, which cut off the neighborhood in many respects. so that businesses were separated, churches from families, people began to move out after the I-10 construction, and we're learning about this neighborhood through the oral history, so that's a really exciting aspect. Deborah Gert with the McCall Rare Book and Manuscript Library in the Marks Library has been instrumental in helping us do this, and there's a team of Jada Jones, Ryan Marini, are all working to capture oral histories for us, process that data, transcribe these oral histories, and this data is going to be as rich as the archaeological data that we have for this project. Geoarchaeology and geography collaborations in geology. So Howard Sear with GeoArch Solutions has been instrumental in helping us achieve our goals. Downtown Mobile is very complex. There's been a lot going on in downtown Mobile for many, many years, going pre-colonization. And, just to share, one of the things that I found most, surprising, and maybe I shouldn't have, is when I'm standing next to the Mobile Cruise Terminal, and I'm on nice solid asphalt, and I'm looking out over Mobile Bay, there's 16 feet of fill beneath my feet. So 300 years ago, I'd be in Mobile Bay at that point in time. And to think about the scale of that, and what have we done to ourselves in changing the drainage and the landscape around Mobile? And when the next tropical storm or hurricane comes and floods things, maybe we should recall that we changed the landscape to build where maybe we shouldn't have built. So that might be a lesson that the I-10 Mobile River Bridge Archaeological Project can tell us. And our colleagues in geology and geoarchaeology are able, and I don't have that particular profile, I didn't think of that when I put this up here, but reading those layers of fill dirt versus original marsh soils and things of that nature, that's what these guys are great at. But they also identify hurricane sands in our profile. We hope to be able to date some of those sands to situate in our soil profiles in the archaeological record when some of these hurricanes occurred. Steve Schultz from Geography is helping us with paleoclimate, so we've got a lot of exciting things going on with our geoarchaeology, geology, and geography colleagues and collaborations. Archival history mapping and GIS collaborations and crew. So our archival history, Mike Bunn, is working with us on an economic history of Mobile Bay, so we're excited that he's doing the archival research for that. Dave Messenger in our history department, the chair of our history department, is looking at certain early aspects of early 20th century aspects of Mobile history. Addie and Raven are georeferencing maps. They're taking field data and taking Sanborn maps, putting field data to those in very complex ways. We're taking documents like the Manifest of Slaves and getting that into spreadsheets and databases so we can get a better account of what data we do have about different aspects of people in the past, working with census data, working with city directory data. There's a massive amount of data that I think can tell us something about the past. We just have to compile it and make sense of it. And it's through these folks that we'll achieve that, hopefully. Lab processing and inventory, I did not capture all of the lab folks, but yesterday when I was thinking about this, I just walked in there with my phone and took a couple shots of who was there that day. So Patrick, one of our enthusiastic students, Reagan, another student, Kelsey, one of our staff members, Sean, one of our newest staff members, and just give you a sense of what they're processing as it comes in from the field. So a wide range of historic artifacts and materials that need to be sorted and gone through, and Kelsey's doing some more detailed analysis of historic ceramics here. So it's really great to be able to involve students in the field and in the lab and give them some of those hands-on experiences, and they might then consider cultural resource management as a potential career field, and certainly it looks like for the next 8 years that would be not a bad choice. Public outreach. Rachel Hines has been wonderful since joining us back in March. April. I'm always early. April. And Rachel has been, and staff like Sarah and Thomas have been working to do some public outreach at Art Walk. I think that's been a brilliant way to share what we're doing with the public. Again, one of the values we hope to do to realize with this project was public outreach. Working with the public relations folks here on campus, they've been able to get me on the news and others. Alabama Public Radio did a spot with us, so we were excited by that. And Weathering the Storm, the Archaeology Mobile Bay Hurricanes, you can access online. It's a virtual exhibit that will show you some of those hurricane deposits that we see in profile and other aspects. So there is a web presence specifically for the I-10 Mobile River Bridge project, and I might have to ask Rachel to help me with my @ or my Instagrams or my hashtags or anything.
Facebook and Instagram is @USA Archaeology.
@USA Archaeology. Facebook and Instagram, there you go. @USA Archaeology, great. Again, what are we trying to produce in this project? The Southeastern Archaeological Conference is coming up here in November in Little Rock. So we're going to, a number of us are going to go to Little Rock and present to other archaeologists different aspects of the I-10 Mobile River Bridge Archaeological project. And some of the crew is upset with the template that I chose for ours. I think it's al.yellow. They tell me it's not al.yellow, but I think that's kind of no. Bill made a face, so it must not be al.yellow.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
Well, the map, the al.'s emblem with Alabama's yellow in the map, so we're trying to mimic that yellow. But anyways, al.yellow, that's what I'm calling it.
Good idea.
Thank you. You're the only one that said it was a good idea, but I appreciate that. But we're going to have 15 different poster presentations there, so it's a poster symposium, and we're real excited to share what we're finding with other archaeologists and sort of further our opportunity for collaborations. Somebody was mentioning water and rain earlier, so I thought I would show this particular. This was after a day of pumping water, and our success was limited at certain times at 1MB 552, and you can see the Mobile cruise terminal there in the background. So this actually is something I put together a little bit further back. So we've completed field work at 1MB 513, 531, 532, 551, and 555, and I'm happy to report that we can add 1MB 552 to the completed list, 1MB 511 to the completed list, and 1MB 564. I'm going to use some of this bad weather as a reason we haven't completed archaeological excavations at 1MB 510, but we are working there in earnest in our last 2 weeks of drier weather. And I think we're making good progress there. So that will probably extend through the month of October. And we will start this week logistically moving to 1MB 412 right there off of Water Street. So we're still down in sort of the heart of the downtown portion of our project, not far from the Mobile Cruise Terminal. As we'll move further south, more toward Virginia Street when we get to 1MB 499, 1MB 571, and 1MB 498. And then we have our two Baldwin County sites, 1BA 251 and 1BA 196. Archaeologists talk like that. We use those numbers and they make sense to us. And we can kind of see places on the landscape. I probably should have put a map up here. But as you can see, we're hoping to complete our field work in May of 2023, although I'm hedging my bet. I'm not promising anything. It could bleed into June. But in thinking about water, our two Baldwin County sites, they're right on the water. and groundwater is going to be a problem. And if I really do those next spring, maybe I'm just not being too smart. So I've been told I need to be out of Mobile County though in March, but I really want to move 1BA 196 to January or February. So I'm gonna get on my knees and beg. I'm not too proud. So we'll see if that works. And maybe I'll send what I'll call a small crew to begin work at 1BA 251, because again, our experience this past year with the water table and the amount of rain, if we have that again, it's not going to be pretty. So we're going to see what we can do. Well, what have we done? Well, one thing we've advanced, I think, is field fashion. I think you'd all agree that field fashion has improved quite a bit. As we have Kelsey and Debbie and Sarah discussing late 19th, early 20th centuries at 1MB 564 is where they're at. So you can see some of this wood line privy here in the background. They've got some more wood lining. I think they're working on what they believe is some deep post here. So they're discussing that post feature as it relates to this wood line feature, which they think is a privy here. So that's pretty cool. I'm old school, as you might, looking at me, you might realize that, and I like pencils and papers, but my crew is 21st century all the way. They use tablets to record all of their data. There's almost no paper out there at all, and that's a huge advance. So we've had other colleagues contact us, and so back in actually April and May, some of them that we're going to teach field schools were like, hey, can you tell us how these tablets work so we can teach our students? If that's what our students are going to be going to use in the field in the future, they needed to learn how to use the tablets so they could teach their students. And Sarah Price was able to work with them and do that. We're playing around with data visualization. I don't have an example yet of that, but this project is funding an art student. And so when I think of that could be turned into a drawing or a series of drawings about life in the past that will be much more impactful on people's perception of the past than my mountain of technical reports, right? I think a series of artwork showing what we think life was like in Mobile at these sites at certain time periods and through time will be very impactful. So we're working on that. Theory and paradigms is something that I guess is something I want to engage with, and I feel like cultural resource management as practiced today is too atheoretical, or theories too hidden, so they don't really tell you what paradigm they're using, and it becomes then highly descriptive. And then I think we lose the value of archaeology. If all we're doing is finding stuff and describing it, that's, if a senator came and said, why are we doing that, Dr. Carr? I'd say, I don't know. If that's all we're doing, I can't defend that. I think we have to do more than that. Everyday life. It inspires me to think about the hardships that our ancestors went through living in Mobile at very difficult times without the technology that we have, and how their everyday life and what we can reveal about it through archaeology might inspire us today. And hopefully through these collaborations, more ideas will come about of what we're going to find and what we're going to find out. So almost done. So I appreciate your attention to this point. At the beginning I said archaeology is the study of the human past or people in the past from material remains. So it's about the past, and then I said, well, the value of archaeology is it helps us look to the future. And I think what I've realized in this project is that archaeology needs to be about the present. It needs to be about right here, right now. So that idea of giving orientation to the American people. I don't know about you, maybe I'm an alarmist, but I think we've got problems in our culture. And I don't know that it's particularly healthy right now. So if we want a more perfect union, archaeology can help tell, I would think, a richer and fuller history. I think we need to address historical inaccuracies. So for me, when I think about Native American studies and Native peoples, indigenous people, this land was theirs. And archaeology over and over again tells us this land was theirs. We've got the Black Lives Matter movement, and a lot of people are upset by that movement. But archaeology and anthropology should be anti-racist and should make it clear that all peoples in the past have similar capacities and all people in the present do as well, and that there is something that is revealed archaeologically and historically, systemic racism. We have people that don't think the climate is changing, yet geologists and anthropologists recognize we live in the Anthropocene. So it's not the Holocene, it's the Anthropocene, because the most important geologic impact on our planet is us, humans. That's a significant thing to point out. Science, I like science, but science doesn't solve everything at all. Science gets things wrong. Back in 1985, I know I keep going back to my past, on that, I think it was a midterm for Intro to Archaeology and Biological Anthropology, they said, how many genes are in the human body? And I got that one right, 90,000. Not 90,000 genes in the human bodies, but in 1985, we thought that you needed a gene for every protein, and there's about 90,000 proteins in the human body, so we thought there were 90,000 genes. We later mapped the genome and go, oh, there's about 30,000 genes, depending on how you define a gene. So, anyways, you know, I got the question right, but it was wrong, and science is self-correcting, and that's a valuable thing. So, science isn't always right in the moment. But in the long term, science gets it right, and it's that subtlety and nuance that I think people go, oh, well, scientists don't know anything. I don't know. And scientists value accuracy, so that's a good thing. I don't think our culture necessarily values accuracy anymore. Scientists work to minimize bias, where it seems like our culture embraces bias. So science has something to teach us. Humanities. Archaeology could be the quintessential humanities discipline if we let it. So can we create understanding of the human past? Can we excite people's wonder about what it means to be human through archaeology? I think we can. I don't think I'm the person to do it, but I bet I could collaborate with a creative writer in English who would do a brilliant job through inspiration using the archaeological record, oral history, the historical documents. They could inspire wonder in people, and that's where collaborations come in again. And I'll end with this, and I've been surprised, and I don't guess I should be, but no one knows Alice's restaurant. Thank you. So I've been asking my students, Bailey, right? I've been asking about, my cultural resource management class. I've been asking about Alice's restaurant, my intro students. What? You know, so it's been a little hurtful to me that folks don't know Alice's restaurant. But I found the song inspiring, and it's a protest song, and I'm not as good as Arlo Guthrie, so I can't do exactly what he was able to do in this Vietnam protest song. But I did come up with a little jingle to Alice's restaurant. And it goes something like this. You can write a simple technical report in modern CRM. You can write a simple technical report in modern CRM. Cut and paste from way on back. Just change the intro for the project track. You can write a simple technical report for modern CRM. So, perhaps my colleagues in CRM will get upset with me for critiquing this, but I believe that it's good medicine for cultural resource management for constructive criticism if we're going to maintain our vitality, if we're going to realize our value. We can't just describe things. We need to embrace the potential of what we can do right here and right now. And I think the I-10 Mobile River Bridge project has that potential. I don't have that potential, but working with my collaborators, we can realize that potential. So I'd like to thank a variety of folks. Some of them are in the audience, so thank you for coming tonight. And there's a lot of folks I didn't list here. And Mobile's a beautiful city. Thank you.